You will never be controlled again. Once you know this secret, what if I told you that the kindest, most empathetic person you know is also the one with the most formidable power? No, I'm not talking about physical strength or authority. I'm talking about another kind of power, an almost chilling clarity, a force capable of dismantling any game of manipulation without moving a single piece on the board. For as long as you can remember, the world has told us that empathy is a burden. You've probably heard it thousands of times. People say you're too sensitive, an emotional sponge, always carrying the weight of other people's pain and negativity. They cast you as a victim, a fragile soul in need of protection. But what if that's only half the truth? The other half, the hidden part, is a secret that one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, Carl Jung, dedicated his life to uncovering. He discovered that those who feel the deepest, those we call empaths, are the ones holding the key to extraordinary power. And this power isn't forged in comfort, but in the deepest scars they carry. This video isn't here to teach you how to protect your weakness. It's a map, a journey into unlocking how you can turn what you once thought was a curse into your ultimate weapon. Together, we'll dive into the mind, exploring a kind of alchemy that transforms the pain of betrayal into the shield of wisdom and turns empathy into an unshakable radar that can't be fooled. This is why you need to watch until the very end, not just to understand yourself, but to fully master the power you've had since the day you were born. And because this is a deep journey that demands real commitment, if you want to go even further down this path, consider joining our membership program. There, you'll find exclusive, high-quality videos and in-depth lessons on the law of attraction, how to use it to attract wealth, meaningful relationships, solve problems, and even heal. Now get ready, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew. And it may very well mark the beginning of a life where you don't just survive, you truly reign. Let's begin. To begin, I want you to truly understand this, a core truth, a map of the human soul that the great psychologist Carl Jung once sketched out. He said that within each of us lies not just one self, but an intricate inner world driven by two opposing forces, a light side and a dark side. The light side, or persona as Jung called it, is everything good we choose to show the world. It's the perfect social mask we wear every day. Kindness, generosity, professionalism, the version of ourselves we want others to see and admire. It's the carefully polished image, designed to fit the expectations of family, friends, and society. But the dark side, the shadow, is an entirely different story. It's the place where we bury everything we try to deny, repress, and hide, even from ourselves. It's the anger you were taught was bad since childhood. It's the fear you believed was a sign of weakness. It's the jealousy, greed, and primal desires society has labeled as wrong. Think of your mind as a house. The living room is where you welcome people, always neat, beautiful, and presentable. But beneath the floorboards lies a dark, damp basement, filled with clutter, forgotten memories, and monsters you hope no one will ever discover. Most of us spend our whole lives in the living room, keeping that basement door locked, pretending it doesn't exist. But the truth is, what we repress doesn't disappear. It only grows stronger in the dark. So what does this have to do with those who feel deeply, the empaths? The answer lies in the very nature of their gift. An empath's sensitivity isn't like a wall. It's like an open door, or more precisely, a sophisticated radar system scanning every emotional frequency in the room. It picks up not only joy and love, but also fear, insecurity, and the pain of others without a filter. And because of this openness, they often become prime targets for people with large toxic shadows, especially manipulators and narcissists. Narcissists, hollow inside, constantly need external energy to validate their worth. They see your kindness, compassion, and desire for connection, not as virtues, but as opportunities, as an endless supply. They will push you to your limits, hurt you, then soothe you with sweet words, creating a toxic loop. Over and over, they pull you into the dark basement of their own mind, forcing you to face guilt, self-doubt, and crushing fear. But this isn't some tragic accident. From Jung's perspective, it's more like a brutal test, a psychological destiny. By being repeatedly thrust into these difficult situations, you, the empath, are forced to confront your own shadow far earlier and more directly than most people. Life doesn't give you the option of staying forever in the safety of the living room. You're forced to descend into the basement, switch on the light, and clean it out. You must face the monster of anger, make peace with the fear of abandonment, and acknowledge the weaknesses you've denied. If you don't, you risk being trapped in that darkness forever, a permanent victim in someone else's game. If this message feels familiar, if you've ever fought alone in the dark, write in the comments, "I dare to face my shadow." That's courage. The moment you write those words, you're sending a powerful signal. You're no longer afraid. You're beginning to turn your weakness into strength. So, when an empath is pushed to the very edge, when they have no choice left but to face themselves, what happens next? Do they break? Or does something extraordinary begin? This is the moment when the true transformation begins. It's not a gentle shift. It's a kind of alchemy of the mind and soul, a powerful journey of 3 stages, turning the lead of pain into the gold of wisdom. 3.1. The first stage is the breaking point. This isn't just a bad day. It's the moment your entire worldview collapses. Imagine spending years building a solid dam out of trust, patience, and unconditional love, only for one day, the relentless pressure of exploitation, ingratitude, and repeated betrayal to come crashing down, and the dam bursts. It's the moment you realize that your giving has not only gone unappreciated, but has been treated as an entitlement, systematically exploited to serve someone else's selfishness. A hollow emptiness swallows you. You feel drained, not just physically, but in your very soul, as if every drop of life energy has been siphoned away. Your faith in kindness, in the inherent goodness of people, seems to vanish. This is a moment of excruciating pain, but it's also the loudest wake-up call you'll ever hear. A piercing alarm from the depths of your being screaming, you cannot keep living like this. This breaking is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to shatter the invisible cage of blind sacrifice that's held you captive for so long. It leaves behind a raw, aching space, but in that very space, the seed of a new truth has its first chance to take root. 3.2, and from those very ashes, you step into the second and most crucial stage, facing the shadow. This is the moment you stop running and decide to turn around, staring straight into the dark basement of your own mind. Instead of endlessly blaming yourself for being too empathetic, you begin to ask, why did I allow this to happen? For the first time in your life, you let yourself feel anger fully, without guilt. You realize anger is not a monster to be chained up. It's a loyal guardian, an inner alarm system screaming that your sacred boundaries have been violated. You begin to reclaim a word of immense power that you'd long forgotten, a word of just 2 letters, yet carrying the force of an entire army. No. You learn to say no firmly to unreasonable demands. You say no to disrespect, and most importantly, you say no to the habit of putting other people's needs above your own health and peace of mind. This is not about becoming selfish or cruel. In Jung's terms, this is the process of integration. Like someone gathering back precious fragments of themselves once cast aside, you are reclaiming the strength of assertiveness, self-respect, and self-protection. You are acknowledging and owning your whole self, both the radiant light of compassion and the primal darkness of power and self-defense. Simply put, you are no longer half a person. You are becoming whole. When this integration process reaches a certain depth, you enter the third stage, the rising. From the ashes of your old self, the one who constantly sought to please others, a new version of you is born, the awakened empath. This version still holds deep compassion. That's your nature, but it's no longer naive or blind compassion. Your empathy has evolved. It's no longer a passive sponge, absorbing everything without control. It has become a refined, intuitive radar. You can sense dishonesty in someone's words just by the tone of their voice. You can detect manipulative intent hiding behind a facade of kindness through the energy they emit. You see the game before it even begins. The biggest change lies in how you act. Before, when someone hurt you, you reacted unconsciously. Your emotions overwhelmed you, driving you to cry, rage, or spiral into self-blame. Now, there's a pause. You've learned to create space between the trigger and your response. In that space, you observe your emotions as an objective witness. You analyze the situation as data, and then you make a conscious choice about how to respond. That response might be a firm statement, it might be deliberate silence, or it might be as simple as walking away. You're no longer a leaf blown around by the winds of other people's emotions. You've become a mountain, steady, grounded, choosing your own direction and peace. If you are on this journey, if you're learning to master the parts of yourself once repressed, write in the comments, "I am integrating my shadow." That's powerful. This is more than a sentence. It's a declaration of psychological sovereignty. It's the acknowledgement that you are actively rebuilding yourself from the inside out. So how does this new self, the awakened empath, interact with the world, especially with those who once pushed them into the dark? This is where we see why transformed empathy becomes such a formidable force, and why it is a narcissist's worst nightmare. To understand this, you need to know that manipulators and narcissists don't operate randomly. They work from a a psychological dance they've perfected. They're like computer hackers, constantly scanning for vulnerabilities in your psychological operating system. That vulnerability might be the guilt you carry like a second skin, the burning need to be validated and loved, or the deep-seated fear of abandonment. Once they identify these weak points, they press them again and again through carefully chosen words and calculated actions, designed to control you. They need you to react according to their script. They need you to explain, to plead, to rage, to hurt. Every emotional reaction, positive or negative, is narcissistic supply, the energy that feeds their fragile, hollow ego. Their game can only continue if you keep playing. But an awakened empath does something a narcissist never expects. They've upgraded their entire operating system. By facing and integrating the shadow, they've healed old wounds. They no longer feel guilty for things that aren't their fault. They've learned to validate their own worth without external applause. And most importantly, they no longer fear loneliness because they've learned to be their own best companion. They've built a psychological firewall made of self-awareness and self-respect. So when the narcissist tries to run the same old manipulation programs, when they press the familiar emotional buttons, the awakened empath's system simply returns an error. No reaction, no drama, no supply. All they get back is a calm silence, a non-judgmental indifference. Picture it this way: a narcissist trying to manipulate an awakened empath is like someone trying to play chess with a person who has realized the entire game is just a pointless drain of energy. Instead of moving the pieces by their rules, the person simply stands up, flips the board, and walks away. The narcissist might be a grandmaster in their own game of psychological warfare, but they're utterly powerless and bewildered when their opponent refuses to play. The deliberate silence, the chosen indifference of an awakened empath is more terrifying than any confrontation or revenge, because it takes away the only thing the narcissist truly needs to survive: your attention and your emotional energy. It reflects back to them the emptiness inside themselves, and that is what they fear most. Your ultimate power now does not lie in revenge. Revenge still means you care. It still means you're playing their game. Your true strength lies in two things: truth and detachment. Truth is the ability to see the reality of the situation without being clouded by emotion. You see the manipulation behind pretty words. You see the insecurity and fear beneath their arrogant facade. You see their emptiness, and instead of anger, you might feel a distant pity. You see it all, and you choose not to engage. This detachment is not coldness, it's psychological sovereignty. You've learned to witness another person's actions without letting them disrupt your inner state. You deeply understand that their feelings and behavior are their responsibility, the reflection of their own wounds, not yours. You no longer carry the burden of being responsible for their happiness or guilty for their pain. You found your center, a place of peace and stability, and no emotional storm from the outside can pull you from it. This is what makes an awakened empath dangerous to manipulators. Not because you'll attack them, but because you can't be manipulated, controlled, or hurt in the same way ever again. You've become a mountain, and they remain only the wind, blowing against you in vain. You win not by defeating them, but by rising above the entire battle. You've become a complete individual, someone who has walked the full path of individuation Carl Jung described. You no longer need anyone else to complete you because you've found wholeness, strength, and peace within yourself. Everything we've just explored, from the shadow to integration to the rising, comes down to one single powerful truth. The power of choice rests entirely in your hands. The journey of an empath is not about abandoning your empathy, it's about mastering it. It's not about building walls around your heart, it's about building an inner kingdom where you are the sole ruler. Your deepest pain, when transformed, becomes your greatest wisdom. You are not a victim, you are a warrior of the soul who has graduated from life's most unforgiving school, now carrying a clarity few will ever possess. So I ask you in this very moment, will you keep seeing your empathy as a burden, or will you sharpen it into your sharpest sword and strongest shield? Will you keep living in the shadow of the past, or will you step boldly into the light to create the person you were born to become? Remember, life's greatest privilege is not in finding yourself, but in creating yourself. If this message has lit a fire within you, don't let it fade. One click of the like button is your declaration to the universe that you've chosen this path. And when you hit subscribe, you're not just following a channel, you're joining a community of psychological explorers, people who believe that true strength is born from understanding oneself. Your great journey begins here.